not in. That link is not for them.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So now I need to go to and see if we are live. We are live, so I can close this window for DuckDuckGo. All right. So, um, let me breathe. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. So, what I want to say is thank you all for being here. Before we begin, I want to ground us in something I learned very early in the 14 weeks of facilitated conversations with white men reading mediocre. You, white men, have been denied joy, play, pleasure, and passion that's not rooted in competition, control, or sex. For most of your lives, you have been shaped by punitive systems, institutions, and policies, stripped of the very things that make life worth living, all under the guise of strength and leadership. You were taught that domination equals confidence, that control equals competence, and comfort equals safety. You were punished whenever you strayed outside the narrow script. And because of that conditioning, we, the society, have been expecting you have been expecting something from you that you were never given the ability to provide. You cannot give what you do not have. Integrity, compassion, courage, accountability, the capabilities these capabilities were never cultivated in you because the myth of white male supremacy does not need you to be whole. It only needs you to be obedient. That's the context for today. So, when we gathered as a cohort to plan this event, one thing became clear. This work cannot be simply explained. It must be experienced. It is abstract, it is internal, it is rational, it resists bullet points and sound bites. So today we will not have a lecture. Instead, we are going to model how we normally engage in our biweekly sessions inside the PWO community. We You will see the pace, the tone, the structure, the vulnerability, and the curiosity, the discomfort, and the commitment to this to the commitment that this work requires. After that, we will transition into Q&A and then a group debrief. You're not here just to you're not just hearing about the work, you're witnessing the work. Okay. And hey Paul. I just wanted to put that out there. Y'all know that I am bad with reading. That's the ADHD thing, but I really wanted to structure this. And so there will be some reading parts in here. And again, this work is not about perfection. So if I stumble over words, that's what it is. I'm so sick of the influencer social media thing where everything has to be perfect. This is not perfect work. And that will demonstrate. We fumble, we make mistakes, we do all kinds of things. So I'm about to go back to reading something and then we'll get into it. All right. Okay, so for a point of clarity about today, this is free open event and I want to be very intentional about who is doing the work today and why. If you are not a white man, you are welcome as an observer only, especially if your intention is to understand the process and share this opportunity with white men in your life. I'm glad you're here. But this space today is not for your questions, your commentary, or your concerns. This is not because you don't have important insights. It's because white men are the ones who must do the work. And there's a deeper context here. White men need to do this work in community because community itself is a skill you have never been taught, at least not outside the competition, control, or sexual pursuit. The systems, institutions, and policies that maintain the myth of white supremacy and the myth of white male supremacy in particular condition you to believe that community is weakness, that needing support makes you fragile, that solidarity is something other people rely on. That lie is not harmless. It is the root of white male loneliness. It is why so many of you feel isolated inside your own lives. It is why developing compassion feels foreign. It is why you struggle to form relationships rooted in integrity rather than dominance. It is why people It is why the people you were taught to fear and or dismiss often look like enemies, because systems, institutions, and policies that shape you need you disconnected from solidarity, compassion, and humanity. This work cannot be done alone, and it cannot be done in mixed company. Learning requires mistakes. Development requires discomfort. Growth requires stumbling. And the learning process of white men must not be allowed to harm, harm people who are already targeted by supremacy, coercion, discrimination, and exploitation. This is why the PWO community is a private space for white men only, not to exclude, but to protect. Protect the most vulnerable, protect the most vulnerable from your unlearning process, and protect you from the myth that you can figure this out on your own. You need others to work through this with, others who are also committed to integrity, compassion, accountability, and repair. Others who can practice with you, challenge you, witness you, and build with you. Because nothing changes until white men choose community over isolation, connection over dominance, responsibility over avoidance, and humanity over myth. So today requires patience, not performance, curiosity, not defense, compassion, not withdrawal, engagement, not justification. You're not being asked to fight, defend, protect, or prove. You're being asked to learn, to heal, to engage. You're being asked to practice the things you were never taught: how to reflect, how to listen, how to be accountable, and how to stay connected in discomfort, how to build rather than dominate. This event is your invitation into the work, a glimpse into what developing a life beyond the supremacy myth looks like for you. So we're going to begin with the demonstration portion. This will look and feel like a typical session inside the PW community: the pacing, the grounding, the structure, engagement, and intentional practice. Afterwards, we'll open up space up for Q&A and then close with a collective debrief. So let's begin. All right. So I'm going to share screen, and usually we start with a fun game, but this time, because I didn't feel like that was conducive to this space, we're going to start with a fun video that I want to discuss a little bit, and then we'll get into the theme of today is male loneliness, white male loneliness. So, give me a second to go there, and then there, and then we need to. Oops, that's not what you need to stop sharing. Hold on. Okay, there we go. All right, so let me try that again. Let me try that again. And again, this is my first time using this platform, so again, there's no perfection for me to this. All right, so we're gonna get that, and so now, all right, so.
No, we're not hearing the audio, Kim.
So let me figure out why because it worked earlier today. And what do I need to do? Do this. It says enable share audio. I'm sharing audio. So let me go here, share audio. Let's try this again. All right. Yes, allow. All right.
At the table, I had a little bit to eat. I got so full. I couldn't see my feet. I had a little macaroni. And a side of green peas. I got so full. I got so full. I couldn't see my feet. I sat down at the table. Sat down at the table. I had a little bit to eat. I got so full. I couldn't see my feet. I couldn't see my feet. I had a little macaroni. I had a little macaroni. And a side of green beans. And a side of green beans. I got so full, y'all. I got so full. I got so full. I got so full. Said I got so full, y'all. I got so full. Ah, so full. So full. So full. So full. So full. So full. I got full. Yes, I did. I got full. Yes, I did. Macaroni. I got full. Green beans. I got full. Turkey legs. I got full. Lamb chops. I got full. Ham. I got full. Can I get a witness that got full? Clap your hands if you know you got full. Stomp your feet if you got full. So full, I got full. I got full. I got full. Thanksgiving Day 2025. I got full. Yes, I did. Lay down at the table.
Okay, so I did learn something. I learned that I got to figure out, because in Zoom, because it's a different app, I can go to the thing. It shows it, but it doesn't show that. So so now I'm learning. But what I wanted to show you is joy. That's just joy. Black people have joy, no matter, and this is what the myth of white supremacy does not incorporate. No matter how we've been beaten, how we've been oppressed, they made a fucking song about Thanksgiving dinner. When we get together, we are just joyful. And that does not negate that there's real work to be done. But this work cannot be done without play, pleasure, passion, and play, pleasure, passion, joy. And it has to be that thing. And that's why I show that. So I just wanted to quickly ask if the part, you could hear it though, you just couldn't see it, most of it. But what are your thoughts about the video? I mean, about that whole folks sitting around at a piano at Thanksgiving making up songs. Is that something that you are familiar with in your families?
That was going to be the thing that I was going to mention. Was seeing that video made me think about all of my Thanksgiving experiences growing up. That was definitely not a thing, right? It was watching the Cowboys on Thanksgiving, watching
Which is the
football
competition part.
Right. Or yeah, I mean, yes, there were I grew up in a big family where we had big family get-togethers and stuff. So there was this sense of big community, but it wasn't like that. Wasn't that kind of sense of joy or that kind of sense of creativity. It was just it's just a different shape.
And I'm happy you thought about brought up creativity, because at the root of oppression is where creativity. It's unfortunate. It's a weird marriage. But the most oppressed people are the most creative because they have to be. And this is why whiteness is not creative. It doesn't and why it steals everything, because it's just not there, right? And so at my family, there's the game on. Yeah, the game will be on, but we're laughing, we're cracking jokes. My uncle's lying, he's telling some tall tales. It is a joy. That is what community. That's why we don't get together as Black people because the pilgrims and whatever for Thanksgiving. We get together because it's a time for community. It's a time to to reestablish those connections, to a time to yeah, just being community with. There's no, again, that's another thing about the there is no goal to it. It's just to be together. It's just to be together. Yeah, and most people haven't, and but that's who we are. That is who we, and that is what all oppressed people, and that's why it is, the community is so important, because it gives you an understanding of what you can do together, right? It's like when everything is going shit, there's something to hold on to. Whiteness doesn't give you anything to hold on to. It's like when everything's going to shit, the best solution you have is commit suicide or to kill other people, or cause harm in some fucking way, right? It is not, who do you call when I'm feeling completely distressed? Who do I get to call? Who can I call on to? And even when my friends or we connect and we're sad, there's always somebody going to crack a stupid joke to make some levity, just to bring some light to it. And so it's just another example of why community is just so important. So now we're going to get into the work. So let me know again. So were you able to see the full video? Because I guess I
Yes.
thought oh, okay, because I saw something that said that it was muted or something. I guess I was reading the doggone stream, the chat, and got confused. So you could see the whole video. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So we're about to get into the male loneliness part of it now. All right. So let me share. And we're gonna do what we normally do. We're just gonna go from video to video to video until I find that there's maybe a place to stop. But it may go about 30-40 minutes, because I want it's us, it's more than one perspective. So here we go. Make sure I turn on click the sound one on this. Okay, we're gonna do that. And we're gonna go to this one. So first, I want to this is a post that I want to start with. This post: white male loneliness isn't new. So this is where we're going to start. And so I'm going to do the the speech, text to speech.
One thing that I suspected, from working with my white male business advising clients, and that has now been confirmed in the facilitated conversations with Kim Creighton, mediocre sessions, is this truth: white male loneliness is not new. What is new is that today's white men and boys finally have platforms to talk about it, and there are more than enough people waiting to exploit those feelings for profit, power, and the preservation of patriarchy. Because white male loneliness isn't a modern crisis, it's a design feature of the myth of white male supremacy. For generations, white men have been denied yellow circle emotional intimacy with other men, yellow circle friendships rooted in trust and vulnerability, yellow circle community not built on competition or control, yellow circle connection not tied to sexual exploitation, violence, or secrecy.
I'm hoping I apologize if the yellow circle, green circle is distracting. I didn't realize it was going to do that.
The myth of white supremacy didn't just harm the people it was weaponized against. It stunted white men's ability to be in healthy relationship with themselves and each other. There has never been room for green circle non-sexual closeness, emotional maturity, joy, play, or passion without shame, green circle collective care, asking for help, green circle being human. Individualism was sold as the highest expression of masculinity, not because it makes white men strong, but because it keeps them isolated, disconnected, and unable to challenge the systems, institutions, and policies that shapes them. And that isolation is powerful. It keeps the lie alive. It keeps white men believing that connection is weakness. It keeps you unaware of how much you've lost, and how much you could gain in community rooted in healing and liberation. Here's the truth: the biggest threat to systems, institutions, and policies built for white men's benefit is not rebellion. It's white men healing together. It's white men choosing purple circle connection over control, purple circle community over competition, purple circle vulnerability over silence, purple circle liberation over supremacy. That's why this work matters, and it's why I created Life Beyond the Supremacy Myth. If you are a white man ready to understand this loneliness differently, not as a personal failing but as a product of your socialization, not as shame but as an invitation, not as an endpoint but as the starting place for liberation.
Galloway to Red Pill Pipeline because this fucking guy cannot get off my fucking TV. He is everywhere. And to be fair, Scott does say that he hates the manosphere. He openly despises guys like Andrew Tate, but here's the problem. While he rejects their conclusions, he is completely validating their premises. He uses the exact same evolutionary psychology arguments that red pillers use, and when a respected NYU professor does that, he isn't building a wall against the manosphere, he's building a pipeline right into it. Let me show you. First, he leans on mating inequality, the academic term for the red pill belief that women only date up.
Women mate horizontally or socioeconomically horizontally and up, men horizontally and down. And when the pool of viable males horizontal and up keeps shrinking, there's a lack of mating opportunities.
When you tell a struggling young man that women are biologically wired to ignore him unless he's rich, you reinforce his deepest insecurity, that he's unlovable. Next, he uses caveman logic to explain why dating is hard.
Because men are much less choosy. We want to spread our seed to the four corners of the earth, and women want to put up a much finer screen to pick the smartest, fastest, and strongest seed.
Do you hear that? It frames dating as a ruthless genetic tournament where women scan for the strongest stock. This validates the toxic high-value male hierarchy. It tells average guys that they aren't being rejected for compatibility, they're failing a genetic fitness test. That just paralyzes them with performance anxiety. Finally, the most dangerous part, framing love as a transaction.
I always wanted a romantic and sexual partners. I just wanted that as a man. And I immediately connected the dots that in a capitalist society, your selection set of mates is broadened if you are economically viable.
This is the core issue. His solution to loneliness is make money, become a provider, earn access to women. It validates the incel worldview that relationships are commodities you buy with status. And look, I'm not saying economic stats are fake, but he's missing the point in my opinion. Women aren't opting out of dating because men aren't rich, you doink. They're opting out because they are exhausted. They're tired of teaching men empathy and managing their emotional lives. They don't want a provider. They want a partner who views intimacy as something you build, not something you buy. Look, women aren't sliding into my DMs because they think I'm some alpha with a massive stock portfolio. They're crushing because they feel like I'll listen. I'll validate them without trying to fix it. They know that I love a scheduled weekly relationship check-in. I'm not a catch because I'm a provider. I'm a catch because I'm a sensitive sweetie who actually gives a shit. So stop trying to be superior and just try being equal.
The very idea of it. Because I understand one principle. You were never meant to be this alone. I understand that. I truly do. But the world did teach you to mistake starvation for strength. And now that you're collapsing, it's hiding the real crime beneath this phrase. It's not a weather event. It is not an epidemic. This is a 400-year design flaw. I'm about to show you we were wrong. Men weren't starved of love, right? They were robbed of love. They were robbed of themselves. I'm going to tell you what happens to every man. Somebody takes your ability to feel and calls it becoming a man. Somebody takes your need for closeness and renames it weakness. Somebody takes your hunger for connection and replaces it with earning. And then they tell you that a woman is the only place you're allowed to put it all. And then they tell women that they're selfish for not wanting to carry the weight of an entire gender's emotional amputation. That's what they do. But that is not loneliness. By definition, it's not loneliness. It's an identity engineered around exile. And that's the part no man's ready for because you never lost connection. You never lost connection. You were just never taught how to have any. Not with yourself, not with your father, not with other men, not with your feelings, not with your body, not with grief, not with fear, none of it. None of it. Not with tenderness and definitely not with truth. And the moment that women stop being the emotional life support system that men were trained to depend on, the whole system starts screaming, huh? It did. And men blame women. But listen, I want you to understand this. Because you aren't blaming women because they failed you. I just understand. I just want you to sit steady. Sit steady for a second. You're blaming women because if you blame the system, you have to face the fact that the system stole your entire emotional life before you were old enough to address it. Right? Before you were old enough to fight back. You would have to face the fact that you were not raised, you were hollowed out. You were hollowed out. You have to face the fact that your rage is grief and armor. The fact that your numbness is a childhood tomb. It's a childhood tomb. The fact that everything you call strength was built on the burial of your humanity. There is no male loneliness epidemic. It doesn't exist. There is only a mass unmarked grave of men who died emotionally at 7 years old and kept walking. That's all that's left right now. That's all that's here. So just so you can stay focused, right? If you ever think you're lonely because women changed, you're lonely because the boy inside you was still locked in that room where crying meant punishment and softness meant shame and asking meant humiliation and silence was the only safe language you were allowed to speak. And that's still not loneliness. It's not loneliness, but it is a hostage situation and nobody came for you. Nobody came for you, right? So just to tell you what won't free you. Blaming women will not free you. Mocking softness will not free you. Performing strength will not free you. Being chosen won't free you. Being wanted won't free you. And being needed won't free you. None of those have the key. None of them have the key because none of those things give back none of those things give back the self you had to sacrifice just to be considered to be a man. Just to be considered as a man, right? So just to be honest with you, right? Men are not lonely because of women. Period. No, men are lonely because masculinity made orphans out of boys and made the orphanhood manhood. And that's the reality. That's the reality, right? We live in the midst of conquered men. Men who were conquered by other men who they don't have the strength to face. That's the reality we live in. And masculinity abandons the new boy every day. Every day. So unless we work harder as men, I'm telling you what story we're going to live through. Yours. That's what your child's gonna live through. Your story. Everything that went wrong in it, because you don't know how to fix it. You never got the emotional literacy. You gotta lock in. Right? I'm just being honest with you, right? The only way out of the male loneliness epidemic, if you feel like it's something happening to you, is if you lock inward. Only way is coming out. So.
Are cruel. Brave men discover that they are really cowards. Confronted with their true selves, most men run away screaming.
This video is not for my usual audience. I feel like I've said that for the past few, but we're living in really weird times. Anyway, sometimes I worry that I'm just screaming into the void when I do this kind of thing, but you know, I had to try. Also, hi, it's been a minute since I actually made one of these. We're gonna get right to it today by starting nice and simple. What does it mean to be a man? Like I said, nice and simple, no big existential questions today. Different cultures around the world define manhood in different ways, but there's a lot to be learned from coming-of-age ceremonies and various traditional rites of passage, especially some of the common features found across them. Many indigenous nations around the world have first hunt and other land-based ceremonies intended to teach young people cultural protocols, respect, and responsibility. Inuit men, for example, are often responsible for hunts that feed their whole communities, and it's important that boys learn about this process. For boys of the Satarimawe Nation in the Amazon, coming of age includes wearing a specially designed glove full of angry bullet ants, taking their stings without flinching to prove their readiness for the pains and challenges of manhood. In Maori tradition, coming of age is shown through a sacred tattooing practice, where young people celebrate their identities and ancestral connections through art worn in their skin. A painful process, but a beautiful one that signifies belonging. Going back in time to speak to my own heritage for a moment, traditional Celtic coming-of-age ceremonies often included community input, with the rest of the community rallying around young men to remind them of their place, their identity, and what they brought to their collective. I could go on about this all day, and I really encourage you to read about these traditions in the words of the people who carry them. I personally think a huge part of the reason why Euro-Western men have been struggling recently, the men who make up the majority of my audience, is because we have been separated from ceremony and tradition and these building blocks of identity. Which is to say, yeah, there actually is a part of me that agrees with the manosphere guys who say that the antidote to male loneliness is a return to tradition. I just completely disagree with the bullshit conclusions they draw from this, but that is a rant for another day. For today, I want to point to the major themes of what it means to be a man across different cultures and time periods, because there are quite a few commonalities. Carrying on traditions, learning from those who came before you, providing for your community and understanding your place within it. It is hard to define manhood as any one thing. It is many things, but taken together, these all fall under the broader category of service to others. Withstanding fear and pain to protect others, hunting and survival skills to provide for others, responsibility to serve something bigger than yourself, and accountability when you fail in this. And this is where we really get to the meat and potatoes of today's video, because a lot of the podcasters and streamers who enabled the Trump regime's rise to power are suddenly trying to backpedal now that shit's hitting the fan. If you're familiar with my channel, you know that we talk about masculinity a lot here, so that is why I am approaching from this angle for this topic today. Because a big part of the reason why these guys have amassed the followings and thus the power that they have is because they appeal to young men, and this is reflected in voting patterns. This is reflected in the way that these guys can direct people to support various political ideologies. They say jump, and their listeners say how high. Also, to be completely real, I am crashing out, y'all. I am so fucking done. I am so tired of living in a world where people with power, reach, and money get to fuck around while the rest of us have to find out. It's like one long episode of White Lotus that you can't just turn off. Where the podcast bros are concerned, I think they are finally getting a taste, a small taste, of the find out. And I think it's important that we talk about this. I think it's important that we talk about the psychological mechanisms that got us here, and more importantly, how we can get out.
They put a video of mine that I'd made for somebody in a parking lot, probably like maybe a year and a half ago, just jokingly. They put it in at the front of this Department of Homeland Security, like trap beat. I think they had like, I'm not sure if they had like young boy lyrics or whatever they had. And the video was a girl had walked up to me in a parking lot and she had said, "Hey, my friend just got deported. What do you have to say? Do you have a message?" I can't remember what it was. And I was just like, bye. So this video goes mega viral, 25 million, 30 million views. It's everywhere. And the front of that Homeland Security video, it's on the White House thing. It's on everything. It's everywhere. And the first 10 seconds of it are me. I woke up the next morning to a text from a high government official saying, "Hey, if you need some extra security in your neighborhood or some extra police cars on patrol, let me know." And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? And look, I'm all for like the board. I'm all for tighter borders. I'm all for like accurate knowing who's on. I'm all for knowing who is in a country. I'm all for knowing what's in the cupboard of a society. I think you should know every item on the log. I think it should be known, right? I do. Now, how do you get there? That's the bigger question. And we don't have to discuss that today, right? It's not about that.
Back on it, I really, really wish I never got into like politics. And I feel like that's a cool thing to like talk about. Obviously, it's like, you know, I just kind of like, I know y'all didn't like that era at all, except for the Trump like stream. Obviously, at the end of the day, it was the president. Like, but like now that I look back at it, it's like, damn, like so many people just tie me to it, and now it's just like, fuck, like no matter what, they don't even get to know who I am because they don't like even want to. Oh, you did this stream with Trump.
You see what your boy's doing? You voted for this. I'm like, I voted for none of this. He's doing the exact opposite of everything I voted for. Yeah. I want him to stop the wars. He's funding them. I want him to shrink spending, reduce the budget. He's increasing it. It's like everything that he said he's going to do, except sending immigrants back. And now he's even flip-flopped on that, which I kind of like. But he's like, oh, well, we kind of need the people working in restaurants, and we need our farmers. It's like everything that he said that he was going to do that he campaigned.
Well, ICE raids are fucking nuts, man. Watching this protest on television, it's like...
You think the raids are nuts?
All of it's nuts.
Yeah, I think both sides are taking it a little too hard.
Well, I don't think if the Trump administration, if they're running and they said, we're going to go to Home Depot, and we're going to arrest all the people at Home Depot. We're going to go to construction sites, and we're going to just, like, tackle people at constructions. I don't think anybody would have signed up for that. They said, we're going to get rid of the criminals and the gang members first, right? And now we're seeing, like, Home Depots get raided. Like, that's crazy.
I want you to keep this theme of manhood as service to others in mind while we go through the problems here. And while I doubt Joe Rogan, Aiden Ross, Theo Vaughn, or Andrew Schultz, or any of the guys who agree with them or take a similar approach will ever see this, I'm going to address them directly all the same. Gentlemen, now that the US is devolving into full-blown fascism, you guys are attempting to absolve yourselves rather than face responsibility for helping create this shit. Because you can't handle the truth that your actions prove, that you're not as centrist as you think you are, that you're not just curious, salt-of-the-earth guys who are engaging equally with differing opinions, that voting based solely on vibes of who seems like the cooler group of people, at least by the standards of a 12-year-old boy despite being a grown-ass man, wasn't the right way to do things, that your critics were right, And maybe you should have listened, that you were an easy mark and you got played. You laundered and endorsed a fascist. You did that. And if you want a Zuko-level redemption arc, you're gonna need some Zuko-level anti-imperial action. It starts with taking some fucking responsibility. Firstly, I have my personal hang-ups about inflicting pain as a rite of passage, but watching your bumbling buffoonery actually helps me understand the reasoning behind these ceremonies, so thanks for that, I guess. Because you guys only care about the dangers of the Trump regime now that it's affecting you personally, whether it's because of the diddler on the roof's economy, losing your supporters, or because there's still some humanity in that husk of a heart and the violence is happening where you can't as easily look away. If you've never had to find out, fucking around is really easy. You were acting in total self-interest, you were gambling with other people's rights and safety, and now that the chickens are coming home to roost, suddenly you have regrets. Were you going to commit as long as it wasn't hurting you personally? As long as it wasn't happening in a place where you had to see it? Second, claiming that you didn't vote for this and that you don't support the regime's actions proves that you ran on vibes and did absolutely no research. Again, just fucking irresponsible. Project 2025 was available for you to read, yet apparently none of you did. Trump was very clear in his intentions. We even had a whole first presidency for you to look at, but I guess the profit from platforming their lies was just too juicy. You put yourselves first. Again. This time betraying the fact that you couldn't even be bothered to do the most basic research into these issues before aligning yourselves and thus your audiences with a whole-ass political movement. The fact that you are now trying to feign ignorance further demonstrates your lack of responsibility with the platforms that you have. It's disgusting, and you should be fucking ashamed. Finally, countless people were out here telling the truth about the alt-right and how you were enabling them. This was not just a mistake. You chose not to listen. You chose not to seek out perspectives from people who were struggling in ways that you're not. In a word, you are selfish. Your failure isn't that you were bamboozled, it's that you jammed your heads so far up your own asses you couldn't hear anyone else over the sound of huffing your own farts. Claiming that you did not know is not an excuse. It is a slimy attempt to avoid the actual problem, your self-obsession and total lack of listening skills. And before anybody jumps in with, well, they were just having conversations, I will pretend for the sake of argument that ignorance is an excuse. It's not, but like I said, sake of argument. If we are leaning on other people to fill our knowledge gaps, we still have a responsibility to make careful selections about who we choose in that role. When we start trying to fill the void of ignorance with shit, we just end up full of shit. Fellas, fascism achieves power by relying on weak-willed men who are so self-serving that they will mindlessly throw themselves at the feet of anyone who meets their personal needs, cost to others, be damned. Your actions have shown that you are all about easy wins, servicing a system that promises you personal gain while the people around you suffer. Because, hey, it's emotionally challenging to consider the needs of people whose realities poke holes in your worldview. It's easier to just sell everyone else out than have to do the terrifying and demanding emotional labor of self-reflection and listening. Working on yourself is uncomfortable. Toughen the fuck up. If, by some small chance, any of you see this, I have some suggestions about how you can do better. Number 1, admit you were wrong. Own it. You made a huge mistake, very publicly. Reversing the damage requires an equally as public acknowledgement of how you fucked up. Number 2, actually platform people who experience state violence and know what they're talking about. Encourage your fan base to listen to these people, to challenge themselves even when it's uncomfortable to hear the truth. Number 3, openly condemn the GOP, particularly Trump himself. Criticize him clearly and directly and encourage your fans to do the same. Have a goddamn spine. Because silence at this point, trying to backpedal at this point, just betrays how scared you are and how little you deserve the influence that you have. And finally, number 4, use the wealth that you've amassed through selling out to support the people most impacted by what is happening. Because without real, tangible action that acknowledges the harm you've done, owns your mistakes, and commits to making things better, your apparent regret is nothing but a show. You're just attempting to save your brand, whether it is the public-facing one that pays your bills or the internal one that helps you sleep at night. When the current is flowing toward violence, going with the flow is not a neutral position. If you are not swimming upstream, you are part of the movement, and when you have a platform of millions of followers, you don't get to just lazy river your way around. To the fans of these men, especially the dudes, not only can you do better, you have a responsibility to do better. Because real men do not dominate other people or exert power over them. They uplift them, even at personal cost. There are absolutely personal costs in writing the course that these men helped create. The measure of your character is whether or not you are willing to take that on. Being a man means protecting others. This means owning your mistakes, putting your interests second, and having the nerve to stand up to injustice and violence. To enable injustice and violence. To punch down, to mock or dismiss people who are being hurt, makes you a weak-willed, bootlicking pawn. Anyone who is more threatened by women's agency and power than violence against them, who is more uncomfortable about queer people existing than the policing of bodies, who is more afraid of being called a racist than literal racism in action, who only regrets his politics when they backfire, has lost the plot of what it means to be a man. These men are not role models. They are cautionary tales, and if you are a young man who has been swept up in this ideology, that is why you feel so alone. They have separated you from your responsibility to support the very same people who divisive politicians have convinced you to hate and blame for your pain. But we're over half a year into this shit, and these people are getting hurt real bad. So I gotta ask, has your life gotten better? MAGA men and their sympathizers sold out, and this is where it got all of us. That alone speaks to the power that these guys have. Think of the good they could do if they actually wanted to. I can guarantee that there is no amount of wealth or man-made power in existence that can compensate for the emptiness that you feel from not helping other people, people who have less than you, whether that is measured in power, wealth, safety, or rights. It's why this ketamine-powered wax figure has achieved nothing in the way of relationships beyond reaching unprecedented levels of dumped. He has everything material that anyone could ever want, and he is miserable, destined to die alone and hated. You cannot buy fulfillment, you cannot take personal empowerment through force. These are things that you cultivate through cooperation and care. If you have been buried in self-serving, individualistic messaging and you are still feeling anxious, empty, and detached, you need to get out. Consider this your invitation to do so. Because if all of this effort to help yourself hasn't led to any improvement, maybe it is time to start helping others. If you want to practice this, I have been working with my friend Maysara in Gaza to support his family. Some of you probably saw my previous video talking about this. Their home in the north was destroyed. They have nothing to go back to, so they are looking to relocate to Egypt so they can start a new life. I said it in the short video that I made before this one, I'm going to say it again here. If you got something out of this video, if you have gotten something out of my channel more broadly, that is how I'm going to ask that you show your appreciation, and please know how far it goes. Most of the dudes that I have criticized here could actually meet this campaign goal and probably several others in a single day and not even feel it financially, but they won't, because they have lost sight of who they are and why they are here. You do not have to be like them. When you tie value to hierarchies and financial power, only a few people ever get to really have value, but you are valuable already. I know that sounds like an after-school special platitude, but I mean it. Every single one of us is, just by being here, just by drawing breath on this earth. You are so much more than just being the bestest boy with the loudest voice, specifically in a landscape full of outrage and hollow admiration. Volunteer. Help your community. Listen to other people's stories just to understand, not to refute, not to respond. Give something to someone who has less than you. That is how you will learn what it feels like to really matter to other people. A man's responsibility is to support, to protect, to help others, and to give back. And the measure of his character is how well he owns his mistakes if he ever loses sight of that. Do with that knowledge what you will, but regardless, thanks for watching. Hey all, if you
Okay, so we're going to start with, these are some of my thoughts of those, and then we'll go from there. So the thing that really got me was, first of all, when talking about the last video, the first video, whoo, that doggone Scott Galloway, bless his heart, bless his heart. That's all I can say about him. But then the young black man, he broke that shit down. He broke, and see, this is what white supremacy has you believing that your experience is different from other men. It's not. And so it makes you isolated, so you don't find camaraderie with other men to build something better, because white supremacy tells you that that black man has nothing of value to share with you. Um, and again, it goes to when I say the most creative, the most impassioned people are unfortunately from spaces of oppression and exploitation, because they know how to to survive. You have to get around that. Um, One thing that really a thing that got me in the last video, oh yeah, I love the bless your heart. Yeah. It could say so many things. Bless your heart means, like, don't get me off track here, Josh, because bless your heart can mean so oh my God. Okay, so I'm gonna get off track. So I used to work as a cashier at a grocery store. And I've always been, this is why I knew, now me being audio ADHD makes sense to me. So there was this woman that came through, and one of my, somebody, I was cashiering, somebody was bagging the groceries, and they were like, "Oh, that's a cute baby." And I was like, looked at the baby, I was like, "No, it's not, bless his heart." I was like, I was like, before, there is no filter. And that it just comes out. Um, but so but I the thing that I got from the last video was it's community. Joe Rogan, Aiden, they have community. Their fans and followers are community, right? Those isolated, lonely young men, and particularly if you have sons that you're raising, all they know how to do is follow what you've shown them, whether you said it or not. And then one of the thing, what did I write? And so I was saying oh Lord, what I would love to see is the PWO community be a challenge to a counter to the manosphere, be a counter to the Peter Thiel, but he's not. But the Joe Rogans, and that is how I see this. When I tell you, I see us having chapters around the world, us having events where we meet together. There could be books. There could be, because I already think about, based on Joseph's situation, parenting beyond the supremacy myth, right? And so there's a lot there. But I want to start with the last thing he said about getting out. People don't realize how hard and he's a white dude, but it wasn't until my time with y'all reading this book that I realized fundamentally we've been asking white dudes to do shit that they don't understand how to do. And so what does getting out mean to you?
I mean, finding someone else to listen to, like, for starters.
Say more about that, Joseph. Yeah. Hold on, I'll get to you, Reese. Say more about that, Joseph, because you cut that off. There's something behind that. Keep going.
Yeah, I mean, I keep thinking myself, like, if it was 20 years ago and I was being raised in this environment, like if I was 20-year-old me, but now I would 100% be sucked in to all of this. 100%. It's so pervasive. Like, what's the alternative? Like, I don't know. Like, maybe there's some stuff on TikTok now, but like, what is the alternative that is
that's being able to scale to that level? There is no alternative that's scaled to that level that challenges those narratives. Ree, go ahead.
What I was gonna say, the kind of like reaction that I felt internally when he said that was just like the recognition of the cultishness of it, which isn't to say that I know what the alternative is, but just like the feeling of when you first realize, oh shit, I'm in a cult, like I have to get out, and you don't necessarily know how to, but yeah.
Oh, that's a good analogy, because so many, like I've watched. Oh my God, I watched a lot of Mormon, Scientology. I watched a lot of like other religious cults. I've watched, and it is the children who struggle the most, because limited education, limited finances, if you've been raised in that and that's all you know, how do you get out when you have nothing to support you? What does getting out mean? You know, Um, and so we have to create a pipeline. We have to create our own pipeline, or you have to create your own pipeline. White dudes got to create their own pipeline. That is the way, because you're right, Joseph. That is so pervasive, and because white supremacy has told you that you are supposed to dominate, you're supposed to do all this, and when it doesn't happen, and you've been so isolated, when you hear somebody who, because the anger is justified, the loneliness is justified. It's that there is no alternate thing. Josh, I mean, yeah. You are unmuted, so you have something to say?
I'm actually trying to formulate my thoughts.
All
There
right,
is something
hold
there's
on.
something there. I'm not there yet.
If you're not there yet, Ira, do you have anything to say? If not, we can just wait.
Yeah. So I've mentioned before that I grew up in central Pennsylvania, kind of the Pennsylvania part of the state, and I did not really recognize what it was that I hated and was rebelling against in kind of the entire society around me. But for me, getting out was literally getting out of that area, being able at 21 to finally get the financial aid to go to college in a city, in a different place. And that, I think it's really significant that things like student aid are being directly impacted right now, because all of those avenues for getting out are being attacked.
Yes. Yes. Thank you for bringing it up. That is first of all, I am the first generation of civil rights. And even with the white supremacy and anti-blackness that I had to deal with and my cohorts have to deal with, okay, we're Gen X, right? You see how Black women, Gen X, chose, or how we move through compared to white men, Gen X. We were benefiting from, and we weren't even the chief beneficiary. We already know that the queer community benefited more than Black people. The disabled community benefited more than Black people. The white women benefited more than Black people. And still we've been able to get to this level. I mean, literally, I don't say this, but I have over $400,000 in student loan debt. Exactly. Exactly. But I knew that I don't regret it, because I wouldn't be in front of you had I not made those decisions, because I didn't have any other way to get to. For me to learn how to build businesses, I tried asking I had to go almost finish a doctoral program to understand how to build a fucking business, because how white people build businesses is not how to fucking build businesses. There's no processes, procedures, and policies. All of the things I talk about as an advisor, I had to learn. I had to spend money to learn. I didn't have a grandfather or an uncle to apprentice with. I didn't have that. And in all of that, you're right. They're taking away those things that help you get out. Josh, are you ready?
Yeah. It's a little bit reiterating what Ira was talking about, but I was thinking about the experiences of people who have been raised in very very religious or very cult-like kind of environments and got out, and like I was thinking about how they explained or described their experiences, that often it was about exposure to new cultures, new people. A lot, like, for example, I think a common thing that I can remember is just like going to college.
Yes.
And having students or professors that are talking about something that you never heard growing up. It's that exposure to a wider world than what. So I think that, like, yes, literally moving like to another place or like literally being in another place is definitely a big component of it. I was thinking about it in terms of like just the exposure and the opportunity to find something that's different than what you've experienced, and like having access to that.
And think about how often that is demonized, being exposed. So whiteness, particularly white men, when you're exposed now, you don't embrace the discomfort, you challenge it, you debate it. Like I'm not that Jubilee bullshit. I'm not debating you on my fucking lived experience. Are you out your fucking mind? I'm not gonna take on either you get it or you don't. Either you want to or you don't. I just this work does not require me to convince or convert you, because that right there tells me how I can tell how limited or small somebody's life is based on that. Just based on that, and that I have, and how much work is going to take for me to get them to another place. And that's why I'm just like, yeah, no, I tap out, because being exposed, because it also not only exposes you to other lived experience, it exposes you to the lies that you've been told. And that's the thing. It is like the lie that you've been told your whole life is gets challenged, because when you go, and that's why so many white men, think about the 60s, so many white men were hippies, and think about how many of those those in the 60s are fucking hard right authoritarian boomers at this point. They smoke weed, they fucked in public, girls didn't wear bras, all kinds of shit. And now they're but once they got, and one thing I can say is the linchpin for white folks is they will embrace the diversity at college. Once they start amassing anything of value, it shifts from collective to I need to hoard and protect. And that is the challenge. It's like, how do you and I love how he brought up Musk at the end, because I've said this man is the world's wealthiest man, and I wouldn't want his life for shit. There is no joy, pleasure, passion, or play in his. He is just fucking miserable. He can ruin people's lives. He can do all of that shit. He's not getting any joy. He's having all these fucking babies, and it's like, dude, you're still not fucking happy. That is not. And what they've done successfully, though, and this is not what they intended. We've spent our whole lives, if we're honest, striving to be rich, because that's the thing, striving to be millionaires. And what they've put on display is, oh, these motherfuckers ain't happy either. So why am I going to do all of that work for that, when I can just be comfortable and live my life and enjoy it? And I don't have to I'm not, because if you think about your fathers, right? As you know, they're fighting to hold on to the little bit they have. These people are fighting to hold on to the world. They're in a battle with themselves every single day. And that is something that, again, how do you have that conversation if you're not in community? Because those individuals are in community with each other. All of that damn, what's that fucking cult, that fucking AI cult that doggone Sam, Bankman Fried, or all of that, all of them.
Test realist?
No, it's a different name.
Yeah. Effective altruism.
That shit right there.
Okay, yeah.
That shit right there. Timnit talks about that. I didn't even realize that until Timnit talked about it. So the majority of people who are using AI do not understand it is built on a cult. And how do you use something that has that, again, systems, institutions, and policies that are rooted in oppression, rooted in all those things at its core? So, okay, so I'm going to do something different. Y'all know me. I'm going to change up how I do things, because I stopped it because I was going to show another video. But what I want is from what I can see, there are 12 people watching. I don't know. I only see a few people responding, and that's fine. What I'm going to do is show a video, and we're going to do a collective kind of thing. So if you're in the chat, You can put your questions there. You can put your thoughts about this video, because what I'm going to show you is what I've created inside of the community as a part of this course. So I'm gonna give you a little tour of that, and then I'm going to use one of the exercises that we created. I don't think anybody here responded to it, so we're going to watch a video and we're going to have a conversation with everybody. All right. So let's go here. We're going to go there. We're going to go there. We're going to turn that on. Okay, so that should be working. So here is, let me back up. This is the community. So this is what the community looks like. And then this is the mediocre course. So there's a course in here, and there are prompts based on the book we were reading, Mediocre. And so there was a chapter called Cowboys and Patriots. So let me just show you one of the questions. Have you played Cowboys and Robbers or Cowboys and Indians? If so, were you ever the robber or the Indian? Because again, that fits into the whiteness can only be hero or victim and never the villain, right? That's that narrative, that Wild West thing, that manifest destiny crap. And so we have chat, we have all of that, we have the community charter in there, but I wanted to go to let me do this so you can see. And also, just for people who are not in here, I got so energized and creative about this whole process that I stopped reading the book because I had to work on this, and so I will be finishing the book when I come back from my break, so that these gentlemen can finish the course. Because I was like, oh my God, this beyond the idea of life beyond the supremacy myth is a direct result of this. So, but we're going to talk about what happens to men. A brutally honest breakdown. So this assignment was share your thoughts regarding the validity of the overall message in the video. And this was tied to chapter 5, which is how to fix it, provides potential solutions. Share your personal examples of redefining what it means to be a man. So we're going to watch this video.
Hey there, folks. Hope you're doing well today. You know, for a long time, we've been trying to understand some of the issues facing men. And we have made videos asking, why are you victims? And to be honest, no one was able to succinctly explain why. And understandably so, it's a very complex problem. The problem is everyone talks about the stats. Everyone talks about the outcomes. Nobody talks about the root cause of the issue. Yes, we know men are falling behind in school. Men are lonelier, more depressed, dying young, less likely to marry, more likely to live at home, more likely to overdose, spiral, lash out, or disappear. As if these symptoms explain the disease. And yes, people like Scott Galloway have good ideas and insight, like encouraging young people to go out and hang out at a bar and have a drink and make poor decisions with someone, i.e. go have a one-night stand. But again, few ask how we got here, because that means peeling back the myth, questioning power, naming systems, and letting go the fantasy that men were always supposed to come out on top for just showing up. This isn't a sad story about confused boys. This is a reckoning with broken promises, political betrayal. And this is what happens when a culture sells identity like a drug and blames everyone but itself when it crashes. This isn't about rescuing men from obscurity. It's about exposing what collapsed underneath them and why some have chose to weaponize that collapse instead of rebuilding it. So let's go deeper. Past the stats, past the podcast bros and the TikTok sermons. Let's talk about the lie and what comes next. Chapter 1, the golden era that really never was. Let's go back. Post-World War II America. Factories buzzed, wages grew. You could support a family with a high school diploma and a strong back. The American dream had a blueprint, and it was written in sweat, steel, and seniority. But the deal? It was exclusive. White men mostly were the ones invited in. Everyone else? Outsiders to the dream. Supporting characters at best. Still, for those who got the invite, the script was clear. Work hard, be the provider, keep your nose clean. You'll get a house, a wife, a pension, and a little flag to wave at the barbecue. It was a simple story. Too simple. Because it left out what made it all possible. Exploitive capitalism propped up by union muscle and racial exclusion. And it pretended this golden era was eternal when it was a blip. The 50s weren't the baseline. They were the mirage before the hangover. America was in a very unique place with capitalism, with a booming economy. But all of that was going to change. Because once corporate America decided labor cost too much, they packed up the dream and shipped it offshore. Automation replaced hands. Deregulation cut safety nets. And Reaganomics lit the fuse. But the story never updated. The economy changed. The culture changed. The world changed. And so all of these men trying to build a future in a system that was already sold off, they feel lied to. But here's where it gets dark. Some didn't just feel betrayed. They wanted someone to blame. And instead of turning that rage upwards towards the CEOs, the lawmakers, the system that sold them out, they blame women, they blame the immigrants, the gays, the trans, because it's easier to punch down than look in a mirror and ask what masculinity means when the factory's gone and the house costs $500,000. Men weren't broken. The fantasy was. And so I guess it's all pretty simple. As we see these business owners and CEOs become more greedy and desire more profits, we see a decrease of wages, an outsourcing of jobs, all in a desire to lower costs and maximize profit margins while screwing over the little guy, i.e., capitalism. But it wasn't just that alone. They needed Ronald Reagan to lower taxes for the wealthy and destroy the middle class. Chapter 2, Reagan and the Great Betrayal. Let's stop pretending this was an accident. The working class man wasn't simply left behind, he was sacrificed by design. Cue Ronald Reagan, conservatism's wax statue of nostalgia. A guy who spoke like your grandpa but governed like a corporate hatchmat. In the 1980s, Reagan didn't cut taxes for the rich. He cut the legs out from every man who thought hard work guaranteed a future. He waged war on unions, deregulated everything that moved, and handed America's industrial base to Wall Street on a silver platter, all while wrapping it up in cowboy charm and red, white, and blue ribbon. He told men they were the backbone of America, right before snapping it in half. Ronald Reagan decreased the taxes for the rich, going from 70% to 28%. Over the years, this allowed the rich to become the super rich. But in doing so, in acquiring all that wealth, it drained it out of the middle class, as well as the opportunities that have been sent elsewhere. And so the result? A new American gospel. You're not a worker, you're an entrepreneur. You don't need stability, you need hustle. If you're struggling, it's not the system, it's your mindset. And when that didn't pan out, when people couldn't afford a house or a kid or a doctor, you blame single moms, you blame the welfare queens, you blame the immigrants taking your jobs as if Guatemalan teenagers at Chipotle is the reason your 401k is garbage. It's the oldest trick in the capitalist book. Rig the system and then sell you a scapegoat. And men bought it because the alternative was admitting they'd been conned by the very people selling them the bootstraps. So where are we at? No pensions, no safety nets, no dignity, just grind culture, side hustles, and motivational podcasts telling you to level up while the billionaires level your neighborhood. And the worst part, a lot of these men didn't get radicalized by reading Atlas Shrugged. They got radicalized because they're struggling to afford to live. They looked around and saw their dads had more with less, and they didn't understand why the latter had disappeared. So they decided someone must have stolen it. Instead of burning down the bank, they blamed the barista with purple hair. And so this isn't masculinity, this is misdirection. And if we don't start naming who really stole the future, we'll keep watching angry men punch ghosts while Elon Musk and Donald Trump count their money. Chapter 3: The Masculinity Vacuum and the Cowards Who Rushed In. Let's not sugarcoat it. Something collapsed. Not just jobs or industries, but identity, purpose, and structure. The kind of masculinity American promised, a provider, protector, patriarch, was built on a foundation of economic stability, cultural dominance, and unchallenged authority. Once that foundation cracked, so did the mask. And that silence, left by absent fathers, broken homes, and a system that gutted meaning for profit, there was a vacuum. We didn't fill it with mentorship, community, or tools to rebuild. We filled it with algorithms. And who sprinted into the void? Rifters, clowns, rage merchants with ring lights. Not thinkers, not builders, not mentors. Just emotionally stunted men barking into microphones, telling the disoriented that the problem wasn't capitalism. It was women with opinions. You can't afford rent, must be feminism. No one wants to date you, blame the gays. Feel like a failure, trans people. It's pathetic. They took pain and turned it into posture. No reflection, no growth, no time trying to explain or understand the new landscape or strategize how to succeed in it. Just cosplay masculinity for $9.99 a month. This isn't men struggling. This is men refusing to evolve and demanding applause for it. And let's be brutally honest. A lot of guys like it this way. They like the grievance. They like the rage. They like pretending their suffering makes them dangerous instead of just loud. It gives them a script, an identity, a target. Because it's easier to scream about emasculation than admit you've built nothing, contributed nothing, and learned nothing since high school. Yes, some of these people were failed by systems. But plenty are choosing this path because it's easy. It's flattering. It requires zero accountability. This isn't masculinity in crisis. It's arrested development in a bulletproof vest. And here's the kicker. They know it's hollow. That's why they need constant validation. That's why they huddle in echo chambers and melt down when challenged. Because deep down, even they could sense it. If your manhood depends on women being beneath you, you were never standing tall to begin with. If your confidence evaporates in the face of empathy, nuance, or someone smarter than you, it wasn't confidence, it was camouflage. And if your entire personality is not woke, you're not a rebel, you're a slogan in human form. So no, this isn't a sad story about lost boys. It's a cautionary tale about grown men choosing delusion over dignity. And until they stop blaming the world for evolving without them, the only thing truly collapsing is their relevance. Chapter 4: The Right-Wing Pickup Artists, Grift, Gaslight, and Gatekeep. When a generation of men got disoriented, laid off, priced out, culturally relevant, the left mostly offered silence or scorn. Learn to cry, they were told. Go to therapy. Useful advice, but too slow, too quiet. Meanwhile, the right saw a business opportunity, not to help men, not to fix anything, but to own the market on male insecurity. They didn't need facts. They had emotion. Feel powerless? That's because you're under attack. Feel disrespected? That's because women forgot their place. Feel irrelevant? That's because diversity stole your spot. They sold resentment in red, white, and blue wrapping paper and called it masculinity. And the pitch worked because it didn't ask for growth. It didn't ask for change. It didn't ask for reflection. It asked for loyalty and offered ego in return. Suddenly, you're not a lonely dude with no health care. You're a real American man under siege by drag queens. Your failure isn't personal, it's political. Your rage isn't a coping mechanism, it's patriotic. And at the center of this emotional Ponzi scheme, Donald Trump, the ultimate right-wing pickup artist, a man whose masculinity is made entirely of spray tan, NDAs, and volume. Trump didn't fix anything for these men. He just gave them permission to stop pretending they were okay. And then he weaponized that brokenness. You're not struggling because the economy is rigged. You're struggling because women have jobs, because immigrants exist, because your kids read James Baldwin, because your kids are woke. It's laughable, but it lands because it flatters the ego and blames someone else. The right doesn't offer solutions, it offers a story where men are righteous victims, the betrayed heroes, the last line of defense against a rainbow-colored apocalypse. And in this story, violence becomes valor, grievance becomes gospel. Storm the Capitol, you're a patriot. Ban the books, you're a protector. Shove your girlfriend and scream about cancel culture, you're fighting the Matrix. It's not masculinity. It's cult cosplay with a gun rack. And let's be real. These men know the right wing isn't going to raise their wages, give them health care, or rebuild their towns. But that's not what they're buying. They're buying validation. They want to feel strong again. And if that means marching behind a game show host while screaming about Bud Light, fine. It's identity by process of elimination. Not gay, not feminist, not woke, not accountable, not curious, not evolving, just loud. And for that, they'll sell their souls to any politician who flatters their rage and swears their failures aren't their fault. The result? A movement full of men who call themselves lions while getting herded like sheep into a voting booth to protect billionaires from taxes. This is what happens when masculinity becomes nostalgia with a trigger finger. It doesn't build, it doesn't lead, it doesn't create. It clings, it blames, and it breaks anything that reminds it of how far it's fallen. So no, this isn't some grassroots awakening of manhood. It's a hostage situation, and the ransom is reality itself. Chapter 5. How to fix it. No promo code required. Let's be clear. Masculinity isn't dead. It's just badly marketed, politically hijacked, and emotionally constipated. You don't fix that with a podcast or a cold plunge. You fix it by being honest, first about the system and then about yourself. You start here. The old script is gone. Burn it. You're not going to be your grandfather. That economy doesn't exist. That culture doesn't exist. That path, job, house, wife, pension is closed to most people and it's not coming back. And pretending otherwise is a shortcut to bitterness. But that doesn't mean there's no path forward. It just means you have to build it instead of inherit it. So what does that look like? Well, first, we need to redefine strength. Strength isn't volume. It's not dominance. It's not how many people are afraid of you. Strength is being able to hold your ground without crushing others. It's showing up when no one's watching, providing, not as a flex, but as a promise. It's learning to tell the truth, especially to yourself. And that could mean introspection, perspective, and working on yourself. But if your masculinity needs enemies to exist, it was never strength. It was just a costume. Also, we can build real community. You don't need more followers, you need more friends. Men are starving for connection, but too ashamed to admit it. So they turn to streamers, gurus, or tribes that sell them a uniform and a grievance. Everyone needs to drop that. Find people who tell you when you're wrong. Show up when it's hard and make you better, not angrier. A real friend is going to call you out. But there's lots of options. Join a team, volunteer, help someone move, babysit for a friend. Be useful in a world instead of screaming at it. That's not community. That's brotherhood, and that's real. And the next thing we could do is get bored with blame. We get it. The system failed you. It gutted your prospect and fed you lies. But at some point, you have to get tired of hearing your own excuses, tired of blaming women, immigrants, gay people, woke culture, or whatever YouTube algorithm is feeding you this week. Blame doesn't build. It distracts, while the grifters rob you blind. If you want dignity, you have to choose accountability, even when the world's been unfair. Especially when the world's been unfair. Stop consuming masculinity like a product. Masculinity isn't a cologne. It's not a podcast. It's not a merch drop. It's what you do when no one's selling you anything. So ditch the $300 testosterone powder. Cancel the course from the guy who calls himself the War Room General. Masculinity doesn't need to be louder. It needs to be earned through patience, contribution, consistency. That means changing diapers, fixing shit that breaks, showing up for the people you love, mentoring someone who's lost, and staying calm when chaos hits. That's masculinity, and it's boring, but that's the point. It's not a performance. And finally, we want to create a new culture instead of cosplaying the old one. We do not need to return to traditional values. We need better values, ones that respect strength and vulnerability, leadership and listening, confidence and compassion. The right wing sells masculinity as a war. It's not. It's a responsibility. To be better than the generations before you, to make the world safer, not scarier, to raise boys who don't have to unlearn their fathers. You want to be a man? Start acting like someone worth following, not someone desperate to be obeyed. Because the real test of masculinity in 2025, can you be powerful without being a bully? Can you lead without needing a throne? Can you stay grounded in a world that wants to sell you chaos? And if the answer is yes, you don't need a guru. You need courage, consistency, and a community that holds you accountable. Everything else was just noise. So in the end, what do we do with all this? We tell the truth, not just about men, about the world we built around them. A world that sold them a future then outsourced it. A culture that told them to be providers then pulled the rug out, calling them weak for stumbling. A system that robbed them then handed them the YouTube link and said, here's your identity, click here to download. Some men responded by asking real questions. Others started punching shadows. But now, we've arrived at an inflection point. We could keep pretending this is a mental health issue in a vacuum, keep blaming women, minorities, or woke culture for a collapse engineered by billionaires and rubber stamped by coward politicians. Or we could draw the line. We could stop letting rage be sold as strength, stop letting fascists cosplay as fathers, and stop letting masculinity be defined by the people who won't last 5 minutes without a stylist, a sponsor, or a script. Because masculinity isn't dying. It's being exploited. And the only way forward is to stop consuming it and start living it. With purpose, with accountability, with action. Not to reclaim some lost identity, but to build something better than the myth ever was. That's the challenge. That's the opportunity. And for those still chasing nostalgia in a flag-draped truck convoy, feel free to keep driving in circles. The rest of us, we're building something real. No costumes, no gurus, just men waking up and getting to work.
So, my question for everyone and the people in the chat, some certain things that popped out for me before we get started. I love the one night stand thing, like as if fucking somebody makes you less lonely. It is such a, but it's so prevalent in the manosphere, right? You look at Andrew Tate and his brother and all that stuff. It's all about having sex, and we know that sex doesn't mean it doesn't necessarily equate to connection. It doesn't necessarily equate to intimacy. It doesn't guarantee you won't be lonely. But that's why this work I have intentionally rooted in no competition, no control, and no sex, because those are the things we need to stay away from, or you need to stay away from. I also love it's when I say love, I'm being sarcastic here. How capitalism is always blamed for this, because if someone can show me a system of economics, a social movement that isn't rooted in white supremacy, then I will. But capitalism, by definition, is only about merchants selling their products, and then a supply chain. That is the definition of it. All this, what we have now, is rooted in white supremacy because he had to, in the United States, had to justify the annihilation of indigenous people and the enslavement of Africans. Because if you look at Democrat socialism, all of it, communism, fascism, it's all rooted in white supremacy. And so that's where I kind of entered this space, particularly because I told you I was obsessed with learning how to build businesses. And I was, it was me understanding, unpacking capitalism. And I was like, wait a minute, capitalism is not the problem. It's how it's been implemented around the world, because I don't see us replacing it. What other system that currently exists that we could replace it with that wouldn't cause the same amount of harm? We don't have it because it's all rooted in white supremacy. Um, um, I loved how my last thing. First, another thing is, for those, I know there are two people here who are not in the United States. My only caution when I'm playing these videos is I don't get many videos from other countries, but this is universal, and I don't want people to walk away and think this is just a U.S. problem, because we see fascism rising all over the globe right now, and so it's not just a U.S. problem. So my question for those who are in the chat, and I want you to ask this. Oh, no, 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 no. There was one thing that he said that was, to me, the most important thing. Men are starved for connection, and that is where being in this space with the 6 men who were in the cohort. I saw that so clearly, and why I had to pivot, because it was just supposed to be a book club. And then it was like, whoa, this is so much bigger than that, because the connection I feel in my communities, you don't feel that. And I was like, there's something that needs to happen there. So my question is, what will it take to redefine masculinity? So if you're in the chat, you can put that in there and we can discuss it. There is a way to put your voice on here, but I don't know how to do it, so we're not going to do that. We'll try to do that next time. But I want you to think about, what will it take to redefine masculinity? And anybody can chime in.
So I don't know what this would entail exactly, but I think just like the thing that would spark interest and pursuit would be something like an exciting alternative. And like there is something in that video, I don't know what his name was, but when he was talking about initiation rituals, and there was something about the way he described it, about the community coming together and sort of supporting them through it, that was kind of exciting. And so I think something, so it's probably community based, obviously, and having like a recognition of and support of like what you're doing for the community, sort of like a reciprocity of like seeing you do something for the community and then positive feedback for that. Just seems exciting.
Something that comes to mind for me is really being clear about what we value in terms of like, and it's related to what Ree was just talking about. I think at least I see them as similar. But what I mean by that is, I think that what we see dominant is valuing like success and wealth and accumulation of resources. But I think like what does it mean for masculinity to be different means valuing something that's different than that at its core, right? And when and related to what Ree was just talking about with the video, talking about the initiation rituals, another thing that comes to mind is like how we tend to treat like our elders like people, people with authority and respect, and why has that why has that been diminished in value?
I saw that in a way that shocked the shit out of me during the pandemic. How white folks did not value the elderly.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, I was like, oh my God, y'all are willing to sacrifice anybody. Wisdom means nothing to you. There is no, when I start hearing, oh, send the old people out because they're going to die anyway, let them go work. I was like, what? That was a level of cognitive dissonance I could not get. I still cannot wrap my head around. But it explains why so many elderly white people are in nursing homes. And I know that happens. I watch so much British television, and there ain't nothing but elderly people in there. It is like my dad. I took care of my dad when he had cancer until he died. We only put my grandfather in a nursing home when his dementia got so bad that we couldn't handle it. But the nursing home, because he was in a small town, was run by family members. So it was like the family was still there. That when you don't value your elders, when everything has to be new. Oh, I'm hitting on something. Okay. So when everything has to be new and novel, there is no wisdom in that, right? There is no, it is always some bumbling white dudes who's, if we value only 21-year-old white dudes, what the fuck do they know? It is so funny because I was a teacher. And I taught high school. And this was one thing I never understood from teachers who would do this. And there's no way in hell I was going to have an intimate relationship with a person I could not have a conversation with. And that I'm just like, okay, you had sex. What are you talking about afterwards? What he got on his test? It's like, what is this? But we value you. I mean, look at fucking Caitlyn. I mean, not Caitlyn. That Jenner chick. What's her? Kris Jenner's face right now. She just turned 70, and she got this facelift to look like she's in her 20s. That based on what I've been reading, it won't last, and her face is already dropping. We value youth. Youth has its place, but youth without a guided by wisdom is chaos. I'll get off my soapbox. I want to see some of these questions, so I'm gonna put some things up here. I was trying to go. Anybody can speak up right now, but I just want to make sure I'm getting some of these. Oh, I love the Uber drivers as entrepreneurs. Exactly. They made gig work entrepreneurs, but they couldn't. But they couldn't. Like if you think about, like, I think about, so like Amazon had the van. They were getting people to deliver packages. They had this thing about they would help you finance a van. If you're doing that, then I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm not that I work for you. That whole thing. Oh, let me go. Let me see. Somebody go
jump
ahead.
in real quick.
Yes.
There's a comment here from Thomas.
Oh, so y'all can see them. Good. Okay.
Yes. I can't respond to the comments, but I can see them.
Uh-huh.
And I would just love, Thomas, if you would want to expand on this idea of the white male culture being the culture of the country, making it harder for white men to find community, because I'm not quite sure what you're getting at, but it sounds really interesting.
Okay, I found the question. Let me read it. This may be poorly worded, but I do think that the idea of the white male culture being the culture of the country makes it harder for white men to find real community. Can you say something about that? Hey, Mark. Let's see. I'll wait for him to um say something about. I was just trying to see. I think reframing away. Let's see what this is. I do think reframing away from this is for myself to this community. To this.
Yeah, you know, expanding on that, and to answer your question from before, I think a lot of it is having role models and people modeling the behavior that we want to see in others. And I think it's really interesting that the behavior in movies and television has changed a lot. When I was, you know, I'm Gen X also, so when I was a teenager, we had movies like Porky's and Revenge of the Nerds and Weird Science that all really, looking back, are super creepy and exploitive. And
Oh
then,
God, yes.
and so I had a rewatch of and don't laugh, but Buffy the Vampire Slayer a little while ago. It's a total. Frankly, it's kind of racist. There's a lot of racism
Oh
in
yeah.
there, but it's also a really good show in a lot of ways. And there's one point where Seth Green, who was huge in the late '90s, you know, he's a cool character on the show, and he just says something about not wanting to rush into sex, even though he's had sex before, you know, because he doesn't want that to be the focus of the relationship or something. And it was just a really a good sentiment and such a drastic change from what you would have seen 10 years before. And I'm not sure if you would see the same sort of depiction now.
I think great points, and I think we have an answer from Thomas because Josh asked, like, this is the question. Josh was trying to get some clarity, and then Thomas said, "Yes, almost like that." Exactly, and that is the root of the white supremacy, how it keeps you locked in, because it tells you that you by yourself is all you ever need. And if you look for community, if you look for support, if you look for that mentorship, then you're weak. There's something wrong with you. Hopefully that is and so he's also said, so we have to, yes. Yes, and you have to develop those. It's funny because I haven't said this yet, but after, like I told you, I kind of abandoned the book for a while because I started going down this rabbit hole, and because I recognized early on, and the gentleman, he would tell you, I was like, oh my God, I need to be a kindergarten teacher. There are so many skills that you learn at a very young age that you did not get, that everybody else had to learn to be able to navigate white men, that we didn't realize we were learning to navigate white men as we got older, but that you never got. And so for me, the community is that place as a facilitator, because it is not my community, it is your community. I'm there to facilitate, I'm there to challenge you, I'm there to push you, I'm there to celebrate you, I'm there to engage with you. And it is literally I feel like, you know, sometimes the teacher has to say, okay, you're doing too much, I need you to go take a nap, or let's just go outside to play for no other reason, just there is no goal to it, there is, it's just to go out and get sweaty and run around. It is those things that that I recognize, again, because I'm not a white man, I did not see it until I had this conversation with, started having these conversations with y'all. And because I'm an educator, I was like, wait a minute, this seems familiar to me, particularly with my special needs students. It was like, we all have to, and you know, people think of special needs as this like negative. Those students get more care than than Gen Ed students, because I recognize, first of all, they were in smaller classrooms, and I recognized that we had to meet a goal by the end of the year, but everybody couldn't get a goal at the same time or the same place or the same way, but we had to get there. And what I did was teach them how to help each other. I've been doing this forever. I was the facilitator in that classroom. So if my students had questions, you need to go to somebody else in the classroom before you can come to me, like 3 times. Because I need you, and then you need to be explained to me what they told you and what you're still not getting so I can understand. That's what this community is going to be about. Like one of the things, I'm going to be off for 45 days because I need to decompress. And my concern was, what is this community going to look like when I'm gone? And this group of men have already started strategizing about the things they want to do. So, Josh, you want to talk about this idea you had at the game?
Yeah. So within the community, next Saturday, December 13th, I am organizing a little game night for the community. And the idea behind it is for it to be a really like a loose hangout kind of community event where we bring in short games, either games we make up or real games, but just games that don't take long to play that everyone can participate in, and just like spend time with each other in community while playing these games. And so we're going to be holding that next Saturday at I think I said it for I'm sorry if I get the times incorrect here, but I believe I said it for 12 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. UTC. And yeah, it's just like there's no pressure to like bring games. It's just we just want to encourage people to come in, have fun, hang out, talk, just have a really kind of loose hangout kind of time with each other.
And that's what I want when I'm not there. I don't and I love this about white men do have special exactly. And so people don't need to see special needs as cognitive disabilities or that kind of thing. You have special needs. And so while I'm not there, I don't want you to engage in really heavy conversations because I don't want harm to happen when I'm not and I have to be dragged back in. But I want this time that I'm away for y'all to practice playing, for y'all to practice joy, for y'all to practice just being in community. Because as these comments say, you don't know how to do that. And it's everything takes practice. Most of you are in the tech space? How the hell did you learn how to code? You practice. And how do you learn how to be a community member, a co-conspirator? You practice. And that's what that is. Who were you talking to about how old are your boys, Josh? Because are you talking about? Were you talking about Paul? Talking to Paul? I'm just trying to make sure. It is challenging for me to have ADHD and because I can tell you that last video. Who else noticed that leopard's tail keep jumping up in the screen? That was distracting as hell.
I'm also paying attention to things in the background, like not the person speaking.
Yes!
So like, I'm looking at the dilapidated houses in the background and like everything, but like I get it. I get it.
Yes. It's so funny. The conversation about you were talking about.
I kind of wanted to highlight this comment by MRKSDCK.
Okay.
This was something I noticed when I started being able to.
Is it this one?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This was something I noticed when I started being allowed to make friends outside my house when I was a teenager. Was that like all of the especially male communication was always about like clever put downs and stuff, which is kind of fun, but when that's all it is, it gets kind of, I don't know, it starts to like drag you down. Like you never feel like you can be authentic, I guess.
Well, it's missing something. I'm glad you brought that up because this is in the Black community. We call it the dozens. We talk about each other all the time, but the reason it works is because we have a relationship. There's trust and care there. No one wants to be put down by a fucking stranger. It's like, what the hell is that? But if it's somebody who's known you and knows you did some stupid shit when you were a kid and they tell that story, it doesn't feel like it hit you in the heart, right? And that is again why you need community, because that's fun. It's joking. How do you learn? And this is why, oh my God, here's a great example. Why white people get so fucking black women at work, when we raise our voice or whatever, you get defend like, oh, you're angry. No, we're not fucking angry. If you came to our like a when we have food and we're drinking and stuff, people are slamming cards on the table, people and jumping up, and they're throwing dominoes on the table. Nobody's about to fucking fight. It's just, but y'all don't understand that because y'all don't have that play, that relationship. Now, if it was some stranger who threw some shit down, we'd be like, hey, what the fuck? But because it's somebody we care about, and then we're sitting back, somebody's always sitting back, egging that person on, laughing, making jokes, because we have community. I'm so convinced that y'all need safe levity. You need to be able to make fools of yourselves in ways that are supportive and not embarrassing, because that is where you remember when we first got together, you were like, I don't know, because this is your group. And I'm like, no, this is not a punitive expression. There is no perfection here. You show up as you are. If you say something that I think is inappropriate or harmful, I'm going to say that, but I'm not going to punish you for it. I'm just going to say, hey, that was inappropriate, that kind of thing. Y'all don't have, every time I talk to y'all, I just realize how blessed I am to be a Black woman in the United States. It's hard as fuck, but excuse me, everybody's life is hard. I'm seeing that your life is not absence of hardness, right? What your absence of is joy and love and just play for, just trivial. I mean, I got a group of friends and we got together, we could start skipping down the street and be laughing our asses off. And I'm 56. Just start skipping. Would you feel comfortable doing that? It's like, exactly. Exactly. It's so liberating. And that is where I need you to start thinking about this work. It's redefining white male masculinity by embracing liberation. I did not realize how much bondage y'all were in, because I could only see mine. I could only see my communities. I did not realize that even in that, I have far more freedom. I have far more freedom than Elon Musk could ever experience. My life is much more liberated than anything he could ever experience. And that is the kryptonite, the antidote to that stuff. Because going back to what Joseph said, if these young men saw play and pleasure and saw that as something that they can embrace and learn from. Because Joseph, you have a 4-year-old son. Think about how much he can learn through play. That's what kindergarten is. You learn through play.
Some of the best performance art is rooted in play,
yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like improv comedy.
I'm going to stop you. I'm going to stop you because I don't want to talk about that because you're about to send me on. Because this is what when I started, I said I have some thoughts that oh my God, my brain is just like, oh, y'all going to love this shit.
Yeah.
Yes, it is that. It is bringing this work. So much of white supremacy says you have to be serious and hard and that, and it's not. So much insight and creativity comes from play, pleasure, joy, and passion. And this is what this work is going to be, because I can't be around people who are just heavy thinkers all the time. That shit bores the shit out of me. My attention span is not going to take it. I need to be joyful and playing and all these other kind of things. So to wrap this up, I'm going to start reading again. So some of the things I want you to think about was, what did you notice about yourself during the demonstrations or the videos and the conversation that we had today? Like, where did you feel the tension, the curiosity, the resistance, the shame, the openness, relief? What surprised you about the process, the pace, and why white men engage with one another? And what did you learn about the value of doing this work in community? Not alone, not intellectual, not performatively, but in relationship with other white men who are also choosing responsibility over avoidance. If you'd like to share, those reflections, you can put them in the chat. You have to understand that this work is slow. That's another thing that white supremacy strips you. It makes everything. That's why move fast, break things is such a white shit. It is about, but this work is slow. It is relational, not transactional, and um, this begins with you. And so there's a call to action to join the community. So if what you saw today resonated, if it's if it challenged something in you or awakened a recognition that you've been trying to ignore, then I would extend a clear invitation. Now I feel like if you would go to Christian churches, like the doors of the church are open. That's what I feel I'm reading right now. Join the PWO community. Inside the community, will learn to develop the capacities, integrity, compassion, courage, accountability you were never taught. Practice relationships that are not built on dominance, competition, or performance. Rebuild the connection, trust, and humanity that the myth of white supremacy stripped away from you. Engage with other white men committed to building beyond what you inherited. Nothing changes until white men commit to doing this work. And that's what you need to understand. If you expect the world to change, white men got to get and no one else has the power to do this. White men do. Not reading about the work, not thinking about the work, not supporting from a distance, doing the work in community consistently. So I put the QR code up on there that you can see. And then I want to add another one here because there what was I? Okay, so closing messages. Thank you for showing up today. Thank you for your willingness to observe and to reflect and to take this seriously. And I'm just doing this now because I'm going to leave this open for some chat afterwards, but I want to get this out of the way because what I'll end up doing is is shutting it off without saying all this. So this work is not about guilt. It's about responsibility. It's about choosing humanity over myth. It's about reclaiming the parts of yourself that supremacy, coercion, discrimination, exploitation forced you to abandon. You were not taught to build a community. You were not taught how to stay connected through discomfort. You were not taught how to be in relationship without dominance. But you can learn. You can change. You can build something different. You can learn to heal, to heal, to learn, screw it, to learn, to heal, to engage. That's the invitation. That is the work, and that is what Life Beyond the Supremacy Myth makes possible. And if you believe in the long-term vision of this work, creating a future that is supremacy, coercion, discrimination, exploitation free, I invite you to invest in Life Beyond Supremacy Myth. Your monthly commitment help sustain the work over time, expanding programs, resources, opportunities to do this work responsibly, fueling initiatives that expose bias, promote exclusivity, and challenge the status quo, supporting the transformation of supporting transformational change that protects the most vulnerable while creating safer, stronger communities. Your support ensures that this work continues, evolves, and reaches more people who are ready to learn, to heal, and engage. And I want to ask the two people who are monthly supporters to say why they do that. Because as I said, my student loans are, and that's just one bill. And I fund this. I have a client on here, and I won't name him publicly, and an advising client for my business, and I have to use all my money to support all of this. And so, Josh or Ira, do you want to share why you support financially?
You want to go ahead, Josh?
Yeah, I'd like to go. Yeah. For me, it's a recognition of what Kim has invested in terms of her time, her money, her emotional energy, and there's serious financial cost to what Kim does. And I think that for all of what's benefited me from what she's spoken about over many years about about the guiding principles of how to the moral center of like the reason why we do the work. I think it's more than justified to financially invest in supporting that and continue and helping her continue that work, because she's invested a lot to make this happen. To the platform that we showed earlier, the PWO platform, and this event, she's done the organizing for this event, facilitating those conversations, the emotional energy, as I said. I feel very strongly about financially supporting that work is the bottom line for me.
For me, I'll kind of from a different perspective, I guess. Kim has written a book called Profit Without Oppression that I read just before the election last year, actually. I think maybe in my heart I knew what was coming. And I've also been following Kim online for several years. And I'll say, if you've followed Kim online, she is so much less intimidating in person than she may come across on social media. But between her writing online and her book, I had just gotten so much out of it. And I've always been sympathetic to the cause, but I don't think anyone had ever really gotten, and no one had ever been blunt enough to get through to me in the way that Kim had, frankly. And the book, I don't remember what your book cost, but it's like $20 or $30. And the value I got out of it was so much more than that, that I just felt a need to pay that back. And it was long before this community, really started. And it was really just in gratitude for having gotten so much out of your work.
Thank you. Yeah, I intimidated. And that's what's so funny, because it's not, again, it's that Black thing. Y'all see it as intimidation. For us, it's just the truth. It's just I speak the truth. I just speak it I'm very clear about. I take, you know how a sculptor, I get rid of all the shit that's not needed. I'll get rid of all the shit that's not needed and just leave what's necessary, because again, that's my educator brain, right? It's just like, how do I get this across? Oh yeah, there's a big difference between nice and kind. I am not nice. I am kind.
But you're very kind.
Think about it. Niceness is about external, what somebody thinks of you. Kindness is internal. It is how I'm going to tell you my truth. I'm going to tell you what I see. And if you disagree, we can have a conversation about that. But I'm going to tell you what I see. And let's be honest, white men have never been told the truth. And so that's why I chose, because just a little background, this wasn't the only 14-week cohort I did. I actually tried to test it with white women who didn't show up to work and Black women ages 18 to 38. And I decided that was just too heavy of work, because again, when I'm working with white men, I understand that I am educating the oppressor while also processing my own oppression. When I'm working with Black women, I don't want them to ever experience this shit. So it's just like emotional. It's just heavy, and I sleep all the time. And I was like, yeah, I can't do that. And so, and if you know me in my work as an advisor, there's nothing wrong with them, but I don't deal with frontline people. I don't deal with managers. I need to be talking to whoever makes the decisions, because I'm not going to waste my fucking time. And then that's why DEI didn't work. That's why I couldn't stand that shit, how it was set up. Because if you're not dealing with the person who makes the decisions about change and finances, then I'm wasting my time, because as a manager, you're gonna have all this exciting, and somebody in the C-suite is gonna say, yeah, we're not gonna do that. And so I always lean to even my clients. Are you talking to the person who makes these decisions? Because if you're not, you're wasting your time. And so I wanted to put that out there, because this work is, I've been working in a deficit for the last 2 years. I saw it changing. I saw after George Floyd, I knew that money wasn't gonna last when white people started getting bored and started being distracted by other things. I didn't see the big pushback from the manosphere. I didn't see the anti-woke stuff coming, but I should have. But I knew it wouldn't last long because that's, again, it makes sense. It was a natural backlash to that. So what I have been using, I have been living off the money I made that in 2020. That's what I have been living off of. Because while I try to figure this out, while I try to figure out what's next, and the few people who support me monthly, I really appreciate what they do, because this work has to get done. And I am the person to do it. And so, any other questions, comments, concerns? If you have any, say it. If put it in the chat. None? All right. So I hope to see many of you in the community. And I hope a few of you have the financial resources to support me on a monthly basis. And with that, I'll say, oh my God, this has been amazing. I am so appreciative. I am so. Oh, before I walk away, I wanted to say something about Josh. This Josh is on camera. He stepped in when I was he created a script on my email where all the hate mail I was getting would go to him first. See, people don't realize what I deal with doing this work. Even in when I sent out a survey or something, he sees it first to make sure it's not anything racist or anything in there before it comes to me. This work costs a lot. And so I want to say thank you, Josh, for doing that, for being the person to vet through that, to read that hateful shit so that I don't have to read it. And I've been out of the loop for so long that I'm now but this is going to be my first going back into the world. So I expect that hate to come up again, because now I'm directly challenging white men and the myth of white supremacy. And so there are volunteer opportunities to help build stuff and to protect this work and to keep us safe. And as I said before, I am this video, I have it on unlisted because I didn't want anybody who did not register to come in. So what I will do is make it public, but cut off comments so that nobody can be, how people are on YouTube. Until we can find a place where we can do all this or build it or something so that we can be safe. And right now I'm cobbling together unsafe shit. So with that said, I want to say thank you all so much. I really, the book was great. Thank you. And I have another one coming out in September, I think. Don't hold me to that, but I think then I'm so energized right now. This work is really, and where before Cause the Scene drained me, this work doesn't drain me at all. This work is see, it's like being a special needs teacher. I see when y'all have these aha moments, I just I love it. I love it. I love it. So the book is called Profit Without Oppression: A Blueprint for Building an Anti-Racist Organization. You can get that anywhere. You can find that on the website. But thank you for your support. And wherever you are, have happy holidays, because this is my last event for the fucking year, and I will not be back until February.
Enjoy the time off.
Yes, I am clocking out. I'm going to be high the whole damn time.
Sounds great.
All right.
Thank you so much, everyone, for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, cohort, for showing up. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And now it's time to get to work.
All right.
That's right.
All right. Take care.
Take care, all.